Well, Scott Morrison has congratulated Joe Biden and also invited him to Australia for the 70th anniversary of the ANZUS Treaty, which was when Australia, New Zealand and also the United States committed to greater cooperation in the Pacific region. Now, because Joe Biden has committed to returning America to the Paris Agreement and also has been pushing for greater commitments on an international level in terms of climate change, questions have been raised as to whether Australia will now be under pressure to up the ante in terms of its climate change commitments. The Prime Minister Scott Morrison has previously ruled out committing to net zero emissions by 2050. Instead, the coalition's target or its climate change policy revolves largely around a technology roadmap, which instead makes that commitment in the second half of the century. But the Prime Minister Scott Morrison says Australia's climate change policies don't revolve around the outcome of America's election. Take a listen to what he had to say earlier.
Australia will always set its policies based on Australia's interests, Australia's national interests and the contributions that we're making in these areas. As I said yesterday, we would be welcoming the United States back into the Paris Agreement, somewhere we've always been. We committed both to Paris, we committed prior to that to Kyoto. We met and beat our Kyoto targets, and we will believe we'll do the same when it comes to our Paris commitments as well. So we welcome them coming back in, but not only there, but I understand that will also extend to organisations like the WHO as well, a place that we also stayed, and so we would welcome them back into those arrangements.
Now, federal crossbench MPs, as well as the federal opposition, are using Joe Biden's win to try to ramp up pressure on Scott Morrison and his government to set more ambitious climate change targets. Independent MP Zali Steggall has today introduced a bill to Parliament which legislates setting that net zero emissions target by 2050. Now, she doesn't have the numbers for that to pass in the lower house. However, the Labor leader Anthony Albanese says setting that target is really something that the coalition needs to consider. Take a listen to what he had to say.
We'll take our policy to the election consistent with net zero emissions by 2050. Net zero by 2050. That's now consistent with the United States, with Japan, with Korea, with Europe, with the United Kingdom, with New Zealand. Australia is now isolated amongst our major trading partners.
So, Steph, to another issue that has been dominating headlines last week, China's trade relationship with Australia continues to worry some exporters after rumours of those bans on sectors such as timber, lobster, wine might be slapped on them. What's the latest? I know that the Trade Minister's been speaking today.
Yes, timber, lobster, wine, all the good stuff. The Federal Trade Minister, Simon Birmingham, said that those reports or predictions, as he called them, that China would move to block some of those exports don't appear to have materialised. China's state media last week was reporting that several exports, 7 to be exact, would be blocked from Friday at China's customs. However, he says that that doesn't appear to be the case so far, and it's important to stress that it is so far. The trade dispute has continued to escalate in recent months, and recently we've seen tons of live Australian rock lobster left stranded on the tarmac in Shanghai after Chinese authorities alleged that it was laced with trace elements of heavy metals. We've also seen Queensland timber exports blocked in China after Chinese authorities alleged that there was a bark beetle in a consignment. Simon Birmingham says while the government is concerned about how long it is taking some products to get through, like rock lobster, he says products are still getting through nonetheless. Take a listen to what he had to say.
We're seeing some positive signs in relation to the wine sector, which had been talked about as well. We continue, as I say, to watch very closely against the type of rumours that have circulated of blanket bans being put in place. Chinese authorities, publicly and privately, have denied that sort of application of a blanket ban, and we would hope that they are true to their word in that regard.
I think the government's go it alone advice to exporters is not helpful. We see reports that what exporters have been told is find another market. Well, we can't just leave our exporters to go it alone, and the government really needs to ensure it advocates and supports our export sectors.
Shadow Foreign Minister Penny Wong there, who says that she's deeply concerned about the consequences of this trade dispute between Australia and China.
Stephanie Zalzel, thank you.